Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Eden, Just Be, Spiritual Boom, in association with the Grassroots Warrior Network. Hello, Cathleena. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Wonderful to be here. Let's see what we're going
to do. Thank you. And out of Florida, we're so glad to have you today. So I'm going to read your bio rather slowly because it's very meaty, and I want to talk about it as well because there's so much in this. Okay, everybody who's listening, watching, get ready because it's delicious. Cathleena Hailley is an embodiment of the divine feminine who works with a Council of Nine collective and other ascended masters. Her coding accesses the womb water of an individual's birth so that they are brought back to their original soul expression, creating a rebirth to allow full expression of the soul's imprint. Okay, let me take a breath right there. So good. As the lineage of her life architect, her crystalline DNA signature not only carries the frequency of perfect pitch to align with the original human template. Okay, am I cool saying template? Or is it pronounced? Okay, template. Earth template and this universe template, but continually recalibrates this alignment. Having incarnated as an Arcturian, Andromedan, and as a member of the Council of Nine Galactic Collective, Cathleena brings the knowledge of human patterns of existence along with her extensive knowledge and work with interplanetary and galactic portals. Through this, she can access human patterning with galactic info, technologies, and energies to fully access their original soul's blueprint. Okay, there's more. Okay, this is fun. Cathleena has a business degree, as we talk about all this galactical stuff, and has a business degree and has worked with many professionals and medical practitioners in her massage therapy practice for over 28 years. She has experienced layers of human patterning, personalities, and life expressions. Her background in massage using techniques as rolfing and myofascial has allowed her to access the more subtle energies connected to the emotional patterning that creates an individual's life. Through her understanding of sacred geometry, she has channeled a vibrational device from the Arcturian collective, the frequency adjuster. Cathleena now uses all of her business knowledge and experience with sacred geometry to align with her resetting the crystalline DNA. Ooh, are you busy right now?
That's funny. When I listen to that, I wrote that some time ago, and I actually should really update it. I mean, it has a lot to what's being brought there. But I've learned a lot more about actually who I really am and how this template that I refer to operates.
Well, I don't know about you, but for me and my spiritual work, like every week there's something new. Like it's just supercharged with learning and coding, and it's crazy. All right, I want to start with I've watched you on several shows. So I always like to bring in someone's background and their past initially, because I loved you talking about with your parents, seeing their thoughts. And then I thought this was amazing that your father started you with transcendental meditation when you were 6. All right, can you go into that a little bit and tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. As a little kid, of course, I didn't like it. You're playing outside and somebody says, come in, and go sit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Who wants to do that? But then once I would go into the meditation, I realized later that there were two people that were there that were sitting with me, and it was Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and we would hold hands, and it was like a triangle. And then I was taken deeper into the Akashic records, and I didn't know this as a small child. I
Yeah.
realized later and sort of reflecting back, and I remember seeing it look like one of those Roman buildings, with the big pillars and all that. And there were these light beings there. And it's funny that it never phased me. You'd think as a small child, you might be like, what's that? But I don't know. Things like that never phased me. I just was sort of like, oh yeah, this is just who's there. And I remember going in and walking in this building, and there was like a podium there, and there was a book, and it was open. And I did look at the page. I couldn't tell you what it said now, but I think at that point, whatever I looked at and read must have started embodying, with myself. And I'd say that, we think that it was cool in a way, but it was also, it was definitely in my life path. I mean, I obviously chose, the parents, and I chose this expression, and I chose all those things to take place. But from the little human, I think it was challenging because, I was so empathic, and I knew so much, and I was the youngest in the family. And typically the youngest is more of the baby and the one who's baby and so on. But I
So
was the
how many
observer.
siblings did you have?
There were four of us.
There were four. Okay.
And but I was the observer of everything. So I was like the leader, even of the parents. Like, my parents weren't necessarily parents. They were more sort of hippie-ish, but not really. I mean, it was a very interesting time. Let's just say I've since learned that, all of the characters within my family dynamic were related to and are related to aspects of humanity's, we'll call the inverted, you know template that's here, the inverted matrix that's here, the characters of that inverted matrix of the mother and the father and the siblings and so on. We're all in this, all the dynamics, and that, I came here as my soul agreement, kind of like the buck stops here kind of thing, to integrate all of these different aspects of these, we'll call characters, right, of mother, father. And I'm saying characters because they're not the authentic alignment of what the energetic representation would be of these people, And so, yeah, so it was a really interesting journey. And I think part of it with the meditation was just an opening, it was just how it worked for me.
Wow. So let me ask you. Okay. So there were four of you. Did Two questions. Did all the kids, I'm assuming, were, hey, we're going to meditate now? And then when you had these experiences, was there really still no one to talk to? So even though your parents did meditation, it was like, well, to talk to them, I'm holding hands. Was it kind of you just kept it to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think I had a conscious awareness of it.
Got
I
it.
was very inverted, in time. I mean, I'm a very extroverted person, but I thought I was very shy. I was very quiet. I held in, like I said, because I was so observant and learning about who I am and how I chose to incarnate and what my soul's essence carries. I've since learned that I carry the 0 point, which is the place of no thing and all possibility. So I'm representing that, and I represent also a calibrator energetics, and that's that calibration that takes place, that we talked about in the bio of how, when somebody comes into my energetic field, there's a calibration for them towards their authentic template. Well, as a child, imagine like in your just everyday human, and you don't know that that's going on. That's what I was representing. So, in the family dynamic,
Wow.
it's like people are adjusting, different things happening, and then I'm adjusting myself in relationship to this kind of stuff. So yeah, meditation, I think for me, was a gift. It definitely was a gift, but it was a gift in a way that I just remember, like when I would come in, I said, as a little kid, you don't like to have to come in. You're pulled away from, I just wanted to be outside all the time and just playing, we in those days played in the streets, unlike the kids today that, are all on the computers and everything. And so it was fun. So we just always wanted to be outside. And so, yeah, once I came in and then I gave my, sat there and then, but going deep, it was always felt really great because I could travel, it was, to me, it was the one time in my day that I felt just euphoric and really safe and all of that in a very different way. As a kid playing in the street, you're playing ball and you're having fun, but this was different. This was like, I don't know, it was like a magical time, and I can still feel that. And of course, when I go into meditations now, I can really go depths and travel and all sorts of things, within that. But yeah, I think that that was really good. And it was so interesting because my father was very different. He did all sorts of other things, but that was just, he was awake in a way and not in a way. And
Yeah.
it just ties to so much of what humanity is, I think. I think it's really what we begin to recognize. One of the things I like to say, and that I've come to recognize of really what our sort of goal, part of the goal is to be able to look through the eyes of source or God, as God or source, and seeing God in all things or source in all things. And that's really what I think was that opportunity then was going into those meditations. It helped me feel, I think at that time my heart was very open, but because it was very confusing, you open it and then you shut down and you become all sorts of crazy things. And I feel like for myself, it was this battle, which is the human battle between that power and vulnerability. What is, and I always say, like, inorganic power and inorganic vulnerability. So inorganic power is something greater or less than something else. Organic power is that there's nothing greater than that I am. And inorganic vulnerability is a weakness or a fear. And organic vulnerability is, it is what it is, I am what I am. So it was like that was like my life, was like that struggle between, there's nothing greater than that I am, it is what it is, I am what I am, which is just the kids on the playground being, and then this awareness of power and vulnerability, like I gotta step in, and so, I'm gonna bully you, or
Nice.
I'm gonna be stronger, or I'm gonna back away, or I'm gonna be, and so it was this thing and
Right.
going on, and I think that's really everybody, but I was just aware of it, and it was this constant, like, what's happening, you're oblivious, and then you're not, and and it was like, because of the nature of my energetic field, I was having instantaneous manifestation. Of course, I didn't know that as a kid.
Okay, hang on. I have a couple questions before we go into that. All right. So
Yeah.
where'd you grow up?
I was in Virginia, in
R-
Northern
Friggin' Virginia. All right. When
Virginia.
you
Yeah.
had to go in to meditate, was everybody like, what? What do you have to do?
Well, I don't think that anybody noticed as much because I played with the boys. I was like the little girl with the boys. And so I think they didn't, I don't think I even told them either. I think I just probably got called in and,
I just got to go home right now.
yeah, just got to leave. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, yeah.
Okay. And I'm just sitting here picturing all of this and how beautifully complex it is, and to be of this age and to have this father who was awakened but not, and the family dynamic. Okay. Where do we leave off? I can't even remember. Hopefully you do.
Well, I don't remember.
Okay, I just remember it
Or-
being very complex for you as a child, and
Yes.
gauging where you were. All right, please continue.
Yes. Well, like I was saying, it was well, I think where we left off was the complexity that I'm recognizing now. I'm reflecting back of that, instant manifestation aspect happening and not really knowing what this is. So, my growing up experience, I mean, we didn't have a lot of things. We were given things and then not giving things. And so,
Oh,
I had to figure out how to get things and take care of myself in different ways. And so
okay. Give me an example of that. Like something was given to you and then literally taken away, like clothing or food or.
yeah, like well, yeah, like as a small child, we had, yeah, we had a house, we had things that were there, but I stopped having meals very young because we moved. And so, yeah, there wasn't a lot of things there. My parents weren't as giving. And so, yeah, we had like a lock on the refrigerator and things like that. And there were just
Oh
different things that were
man.
it was just an interesting time
Yeah.
uh, of what took place. And I don't, I have no blame, and there's no fault. I think, with my parents, they were young, they didn't know, they operated in the way that they knew. And
Yeah.
so, like I said, I'm not, there's no victimhood here. There's nothing like that. It was just that, like I said, they were hippies in way, sort of, not really, kind of, played in that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think my father was, he was definitely bipolar, could have been schizophrenic. I'm not sure. He had a lot of different things were going on, and a lot of that may have been for this him awakening and not awakening, and I mean, there was just a lot of things going on, and like I said, I think we choose the parents and these dynamics to come
Mhm.
into. So that was the kind of thing for me. It was odd. Like we had these big Christmases where we had all these things that were given to us, but we didn't have things day to day. And so
Oh,
it was just
wow.
a very confusing time. And I say I think they did the best of whatever resources they had and whatever they chose. And it was very confusing. But I feel like I was more awake, but not in a way too. Like I knew that I was a child and I was in a child body, and so I couldn't do things, and that was frustrating. And so there were times when I wanted to grow up, and like, but then you grow up and then you're just walking the streets. I mean, as a teen, I was just kind of walking the streets because I didn't know what to do with myself, right?
Yeah.
Weren't taught things. And so, I had all this bigger esoteric knowledge, but I didn't have the day-to-day human knowledge. Like I didn't know you could be a professional golfer. You could be like, it never occurred to me. I didn't have those things weren't a part of my awareness
Right.
because I was just, in my head kind of. So this is kind of the other side of that. Like, so you're meditating, you have this energy, but if you don't have some kind of awareness, you're feeling the energy, you're observing everything, you're aware of something very deeper. And it
Yeah.
really ties to what we're here for. When I came here for me now, it's like, I think deep inside, I knew about like the false matrix. I knew about the timelines. I knew about the aliens, but I wouldn't say I knew that as a child, but I knew these things. And so it's like my oversoul, my higher self was directing me in a way that yes, I made a human life, ended up being a massage therapist and all of that, and then moved me into here. But it wasn't like I had the human journey that some people have where they can just, be in high school and hang out with everybody and go to all the dances. So I didn't do those sorts of things. I didn't have those sorts of things. I didn't It was different. I've always been different.
So
Just
it's almost like you didn't have a practical human life, or not, I don't want to say practical, but it sounds like some of what you're saying, Cathleena, that you didn't know how to practically be a human.
Yes,
Like
I
you had
used to
all
say
this.
that for a long time. Like I had no idea how to be human. I had no idea
Okay.
what to do here. And I just, I was just kind of floating along, and I
Yeah.
think, and I was very androgynous in the way too, which is, I think, a lot. I didn't feel, like what it meant to be a girl or what it meant to be, in a body or, it was these types of things. And it all makes sense though, if you're
Right.
carrying that 0 point and ultimately you're here to remember the neutrality. You're here to remember the balance of the masculine and feminine energy just on such a bigger level. So
Jeez.
yes, from a human journey, it's been, it was a very interesting journey,
Yeah.
going through. But I think it relates, I think many, many people can relate to this, if they let themselves really let go and realize that, yeah, they don't know. I mean, I meet people all the time, a lot of people that I work with, and certainly, just so many people that they really don't know who they are. They don't know what
Yeah.
it means to be a man or a woman or anything, because we've been taught all these things that are sort of arbitrary. They don't
Yeah.
even, this little Ozzy and Harriet type stuff, which I would love actually to have, those that, don't know Ozzy and Harriet because it's, depending on the audience, but, just like that Leave It to Beaver kind of energy, or that, that really innocence. I think that's really who we are, and that's always been who I am. I say we're just kids on the playground. and I've always been very innocent, very naive, very comfortable. And because of that, and like my superpower is that I'm, I'm truthful to a default, and that, and
Yeah.
trustworthy. And yeah, and I think and I can tell you're not, because I can feel it in your energy too. And I think that this is really the epitome of everybody. We're really just innocent, even the ones that we think are, somebody wants to judge and say they're horrific in what they're doing, but they're just so far away from their divine innocence that they're acting out in a certain way, and I think this is what we're here. That's why there's no judgment, and why it is just about being. And so for me, that's what I was just there. I would just show up and I'm just there. And I think people were feeling my energy, and I had unusual things, like very young. I mean, I was, maybe 9 or 10, I think, one of the first times I remember. And, I always said hi to people, and I would say hi, and I'd say hi to adults and everybody. And people would say hi, but they wouldn't just say hi to me. They would begin to tell me their life story, oh, I got
Peace.
divorced and all this. And I'm this 9-year-old. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh.
and then
Okay.
and then well, and then I would just say something. It was like I didn't even know where it came from, and I noticed a profound change would happen to the person. I was started to notice that, and I was like, this is curious. And so that's also where you start to play in that power game and that vulnerability, because that's when you start to think, okay, I'm here for a divine purpose. But you can step into that false savior program, like, oh, I'm here, and I went through the stage of, I have all the answers, so I'm right. And of course, then nobody likes that. So we had to step out of that need to be right, and that, and so we're learning and we're holding space. And from an energetic perspective, it was the difference between coming from the solar plexus, which is a direct channel, right, of your how we identify. The solar plexus is where we identify ourselves in our human story, versus the heart, which is like this space coming in from here, where you're more open. That's when you start to really, look through the eyes of God, seeing God in all things and becoming God. Is when you're in that heart space, and you're really you're participating. It's like, it's a funny thing that we don't participate. It was like a aha moment for me, of realizing what having coherency between the mind, the heart, and the action is.
Mhm.
And because this is what we're really coming into in this idea of sovereignty. But simplistically, it's like you are actually participating, literally within your life, because we think it, we step into things as a character. We show up with what we think the other person wants, or what we want to get from them. And you may have heard me talk about that. This is what we're doing in relationships, right? And the same frequency of relationship that we have with our body, we have with money, we have with people. And typically relationships are transactional, they're seductive, they're manipulative, they're, and that's really that power and vulnerability game. And so this is what was happening all the time. It's like I would just show up, I'm just there, and then these things are happening, and I'd have this innocence. But then if my brain took hold of it, and then I started to feel, because I was so empathic, I'm reading them, and I knew what they wanted, and
Ooh.
how to do it. And it was both like you could charge in and make changes, but then also, which I think is where most people are, is like you become something that you don't even want to do it, but somehow you become it. Like later in life, I ended up, in this relationship. When I first started in a relationship, I have my animals, and they're on the couch, and they're doing everything they want. I love this. And then by the end of the relationship, when it ended, I had corralled my animals. And all these things that I wouldn't have done if
Right.
I were in my me, right? And I know I'm bringing up a lot, but this is really how my life, my childhood, and I think many people, this is what we do. We end up becoming something that we're not, and we continue to play the game until we don't. And that's really it, right? That's why I say this
Yes.
is really easy and really hard at the same time. It's like the easy part is let go and be yourself. The hard part's let go and be yourself, because there's so
Exactly.
much going on, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
but the more we can just be, and I'm using it like this because this is like, you're opening your heart really here. And I think people have this misnomer about what that is. I think opening your heart and being vulnerable is like giving yourself away. No, it's actually being sovereign in the sense that I'm right here. And then and there's a difference between authentically speaking versus trying to put something in you or take something from you. And I found that I feel the most difficult part of that is that letting yourself truly be, just be in general, because we're so empathic and there's so many energies and frequencies and messages and things in the subliminal, and you can feel them. And it was like there's this because you ever been around somebody that you walk up next to them and you immediately feel like you can't look at them, and you're just kind of like, and you're nervous, you don't even know what's
Yeah.
happening, right? And that's when that person is really in usually a place of really heart opened, and you haven't necessarily practiced that yet. And so they're standing there in this totally heart open, and you're like, I don't want to do it myself, right? And so you have to let yourself do that. You have to be in that super okay, I'm gonna find my way in here in order to practice that. And this is, as a little kid, it's easier, right? Because you just kind of be goofy and whatever. Sort of. It's still challenging for me
Right.
because, but as an adult, we're like, I don't know what to do with that. But when you just, okay, you take breaths and then you let go, and then you realize like, oh, this person's just being, and I didn't know what that's like, and so this is, and imagine that's my energetic field, right? So imagine that I showed up unbeknownst to me that that was what was going on. So people are feeling this and they don't know what to do with it. And so I was contracting and expanding my energy all the time, and until I'm not. And so now this is me, it's like I just like, oh, just be myself. And I can't say I'm 100%. I still have those moments that I get
Yeah.
that weird, but
Oh, yeah.
I practice what I'm saying. I just take a breath and I try, and I feel it more about what that I'm really feeling, because those are what you're feeling uncomfortable are those little parts of self that are like, ooh, can I show up? Like, yeah, show up.
Yes, you can. Hey, I have a question. When you talked about knowing when you were little that we were in a matrix, when did you really start to hone into that?
Well, that's a kind of interesting question because I knew that nothing made sense all along, always. I
Wow.
think that's exactly why I didn't know things like you could be a professional golfer, all of that, because nothing made sense. I was like,
Got
well,
it.
what's the purpose? Even like
Yeah.
you go for this drive of like money, everybody wants money. I'm like, okay, so I get money. Now what do I do with it? And then what do I do? And it was just kind of like this whole thing all the time. I was like, you strive for something and then you get it and you go, well, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or what's next or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's that
Yeah.
and why? And that was always the way. And I was always like that. And I always knew everything was upside down.
Mm.
I always felt that. I was like, nothing's making sense here. This is all backwards. What's happening here? But I certainly couldn't articulate it to the way that I am now, but that's what made, I think, the most struggle, for me in my human story was
Yeah.
that, I had all these abilities. Like I have, the ability, and of course there's no ego involved in this, but anytime I meet someone that has any type of energy thing, I can immediately do whatever they do. And I'm looking at that energetically, but I've realized it's because of the nature of my incarnation. I'm from First Prime Creator, one of the original seeders. I'm connected to the original source codes of creation and the awareness of all that. But I've also had all the participation. I participated as far into the darkness and as far into the lightness as
Me
both, and
too.
in the
Yep.
center. Yeah. And coming into that, I love the word innerstand and understand, the inner standing, right? It's inside
Yep.
of what all that means, and the journey of all of that and how the humans are playing out good, bad, right, and wrong, and all these different things. And so, yeah, it's just been this interesting journey.
So how is that? Okay, because I've been spiritually awakened for a long time, but then the matrix awakening for a lot of us happened in 2020. What what was that like with you knowing? Like I've met other people that have known their whole lives, but it's there are not very many people that know. So how did you handle that for yourself? How did you, even though there were these complex questions about living, were you just like, okay, so I'm just gonna go on with it? Did 2020 open up more connections for you, or had you found your people? Okay, talk. That was a lot of questions, but yeah, talk about that.
Um, well, like I said, I've had so many different things. I guess the first first bigger awareness was about 1996, I think, or something like that. And I had this desire to have a psychic reading. I never had a reading before. And I was like, and I came across this New Age magazine. I was in Virginia in the DC area, and it's called Pathways. And there was this psychic fair at the Institute of Spiritual Development down in DC. And I said, okay, let me go to the psychic
Okay, is that
fair.
Edgar Casey
Uh, no, the
Institute of? I know there's something in
it
Virginia
was
that's
like a
his, but I can't.
spiritualist church. I don't know,
Okay,
like spiritualist church. It didn't really matter that part, but
okay.
it was I just went to have a reading, right? And so I thought, okay, let's just play around with this. And so I went there and they had these little 15-minute readings. And so, I picked a bunch of them. And then there was this woman that said, oh, there's this woman, Ginny, and she's amazing and she doesn't come very often. You should have one with her. And I was like, I already signed up for a bunch, but I signed up with her as well. So I made the rounds, and they were all just kind of generic readings, nothing big. And for whatever reason, and even with Ginny, it was like a generic, but I ended up taking her card.
Hmm.
And so then I went home and she lived in Maryland. So it was just over the bridge. I was in the tri-state area, Virginia, DC, Maryland, right? And so I was at home and I remember saying to myself, wouldn't this be cool if I could like do this and these abilities? Like that's how much I really wasn't even aware, right? And so anyway, I decided to have a full reading with her, and I could have gone to her house, but I decided to do it over the phone. And
Okay.
at that time, she gives a tape. This was cassette tapes, so long ago. And so anyway, she sends me the tape, and I get my tape, and my tape is blank. So I call her and I say, my tape is blank. And she said, well, this has never happened. You need to come here. So I went to her house, and that's when I got introduced to the first. There were these two women, she said, Margaret and Diana, and they came from the 20s, and they were there because I had dual sides of my personality and were helping to balance. And then they
Wow.
introduced me to the council, and they said, and the way she described it at the time was like there were rings around the earth, and these are civilizations, and they don't come from there, but they are there, and that the earth
Okay.
is a
Holy
part.
smokes. This wasn't, I mean, this was a heavy duty, deep
This
reading.
was like boom. This was just like
Wow.
drop in. And
Let's go.
yeah, and then they told me that I had a dual contract and that I was she called it a people mover, and they called me the webmaster in the first order. And I think
Ooh.
that was referring to like the Arcturians and the Council of Nine and all of that. And what's funny is it was right at that Hale Bopp, was that the asteroid? It's a comet, Hale-Bopp
Comment that was coming through.
comet that came through, and then all those people, had died at that time. It was right. So it was a very unusual time when this took place. And so they told me that I did automatic writing and to go home in the same space in the same time, and they were going to communicate to me. And I said, okay. And so I went home and I just take a pencil in hand and I would just hold it on the paper and it would start to move and start to write. And I could hear it in my head. And so I was like, am I making this up? And so then I told them they had to change something. So they changed the handwriting. So mine would go this way and theirs would go the opposite. And then they started to say, we are here. And I started to be able to tell the differences between telepathic, which were the more like the higher level dimensional beings, and then the Arcturians and drums, all the different beings. And so they said to me that we're going to be moving you to the south because all your energy is being used up to north for survival. And they said you're going to meet
Oh,
somebody who is in England, and you're going to go there and you're going to learn healing. And there you're going to meet people who are going to show you the spiritual ropes in Florida, where I had already started to plan to move. And so, yeah, it was like a few
Oh,
days later, or maybe within a week, I get a phone call from somebody who was representing this healer in England. And so I ended up going to England, and there's a spiritualist camp called Cathleena in Orlando. And so all of those people were in England at the time that I was there. So I ended up meeting them.
oh,
And I also had channeled a healing center when I was there, either there or just before I had left, I think. And that became the frequency adjuster handheld tool. So at that time, I thought my mission was to create this healing center. And so when I ended up moving to Florida, that's what I set out to do. And I, contact architect and was looking for locations, but it was very challenging and have the money or the ability to do it. So anyway, it ended up leading me down a pathway of eventually the frequency adjuster. But so I sidetracked. I stopped my path because I met somebody that we ended up putting together a full service diagnostic center. So that was a whole other thing. And so I stopped my path and then did that. And then that it did come into fruition, but it didn't continue. So later, the fast forward, I ended up, moving and by the time I ended up in Naples, Florida, I had, been in this relationship that I thought was going to be more long term. It didn't. I was basically pushed out of the street with nothing. So I went through what I say is the dark night of the soul. And I had already kind of
whoa.
gone through aspects of that, but I went
Yeah.
through a very deep dark night. So, and this was like in 2015. So this is
Okay.
how years later. So at this point, what that felt like to me was like the chrysalis stage in the butterfly, right? Where I don't know how many people know, but in the chrysalis stage, the caterpillar literally becomes liquid. So imagine that you are encased in this enclosure, and you have this memory of being a land animal, but you're liquid. And then but you also have, this awareness that something amazing is going to come in. You're going to fly, but you're liquid. And so that's what was happening to me. I felt like I'm just losing my mind, and I felt trapped in my head. I felt like nothing and no one could help me. I
Oh,
knew death wasn't going to work. And so, it's that feeling like you're liquid, you don't know. And so what I do, I had to surrender. And so when I just let go, that's when my multidimensional self kicked in, and it was just like, everything clicked in, and I started to move forward with that awareness. And that's really when I brought the frequency adjuster into the world. And that's a funny story too, because here I am, I'm literally, that whole walk was remembering of, more about instantaneous manifestation and letting go. Because like I said, I had nothing. And then I ended up living with this woman, invited me into her home. She didn't charge me any rent, and it was a beautiful house. And I
oh,
didn't tell the story of, I'm a failure. I just was grateful. And so I went from there and eventually into an apartment that I didn't know how I was going to afford, but everything in me told me I was supposed to be in this space.
you be taken care of.
And and yeah, and so each month I had no idea how I was going to pay it, but I had to keep surrendering. And so it was during that time that I
Whoa.
also brought the frequency adjuster in. And it's funny because I was guided to go to this turnkey company in Naples, Florida, which is like $1 million Poshyville, right? And this a turnkey company takes inventions from inception to market. And so here I walk into this turnkey company with this metaphysical
Yeah.
instrument.
They're like,
I didn't think
what?
twice about it. They
Right.
liked it. Yeah. And so we ended up bringing in, and even then they're like, you need 25,000. I'm like, well, I don't have it. And so eventually, like I said, I ended up bringing that. Not only did I bring that into the world, but I fully patented it. I also had a trademark again, and I'm in this apartment that was like more than double what I had been paying before, and all of it was just taken care of. And this eventually led me to then move. I moved from there to Asheville, North Carolina, and I was taken there again. That's working with the grid systems and like the portal systems because it's built on a crystal. And it was there that it was in 2020. And so, as I said, everything was starting to awaken, happening. And I remember when the 2020, I had a moment where I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to do any of this." And
Oh
and it
man.
was like something just did an about face and said, no, you're going to dive in deeper. And that's what I did. And so then that just catapulted me to where I am now. I mean, there's obviously more details to the story, but yeah. And when I ended up bringing myself even out into the world, I had to do it very fast because, I'm suddenly out there, and I was working with somebody that I was supposed to have a website, and all these things had been happening, but all of that suddenly just fell apart. And so I had to quickly, throw up a website and do different things very fast. But it's led me, and so I think it's so testament to that, we're just kids on the playground, and it's about letting go and being
Yeah.
yourself, and having that faith, trust, and surrender. And faith, trust, and surrender doesn't mean, it's not a giving up, and it's not a passivity. It's a saying, okay, and I like to talk about this in this way where this is really about mastering the mind, because that's what we're
Mhm.
doing in this awakening and awareness of our multidimensional self, as well as our sovereignty. And so, the idea of that is that we can have a literal that says, I don't know where my money's coming from, but I have a choice to go, oh my God, I don't know where my money's coming from, or I don't know, I have an idea. And in the second one, and I talk about this, that we literally create through our thought and our emotion, right? Every
Yes.
thought comes out of your head as a geometric shape, and that is the blueprint of your creation. It's the paper, it's the mental masculine. And you add an emotion to that. The emotion is a fuel, it's the spiritual feminine, it's the person and the pencil, right? So you take a thought, you add an emotion, you hold it 14 seconds or longer, then it moves into that unified field, or that 0 point, the place of all frequencies. It finds a match to that, goes out into the universe, and comes back into your reality. So it's like, if you can begin to remember that, and it's like something in me innately knew that. And so I just was practicing, okay, I don't know where it's coming from, but that's okay. You know what? I feel this is the right thing. I'm gonna let go. And then you get messages. You'll suddenly have awareness of things. So you will do physical steps, but the physical steps won't be coming from your brain trying to search
Mm.
around into things you already know. It'll be something that's guiding you. I'll give you an example of where that
Okay.
happened for
Can I
me.
ask you too, the 14 seconds, how did you figure that out? That timing versus 7 seconds or 15?
Yeah, well, that was actually given to me,
Yeah.
from, like, Carolyn Corey talks about that. And
Okay.
so
I
I
love that.
felt it from her energetic
Okay.
field, and you can feel that. Yeah, I don't know why. If you ask me, 14 seconds, I don't know.
It just,
Um,
it just
she had
holds
a
it.
greater, she had a greater awareness of that, and I could just feel that that's truth.
Okay. And just to repeat that back, if there's something that you're concerned about, money or whatever, just to really set your, okay, I might be putting some of my more words into it, like your intuition, your heart, and your mind, like holding space for an idea or letting go of control for 14 seconds, or even if there's something that you would like to create, holding it there
No,
for 14
I'd let
seconds.
go of that. I wouldn't even
Okay.
think
Okay.
14 seconds. No, no, the 14 seconds is the awareness. That's just letting you know
Okay.
that it has come into a creation. That's all that's saying. That, I think that's the if we call an importance in that, it's just letting you know that you're literally creating that. Okay, that
Okay.
it is in form. Okay, that, I think that's the bigger thing.
Got it.
No, I'd say the piece to take from this is that, the body's everything. This is really what I try to tell people, is that I think the most important part about me describing that, again, the timing of it is just saying that it happens quickly. Okay, so
Mhm.
just think about it in that way. It's a quick thing, but it's not anything to be nervous about or thought about.
Got it.
But the most important part is that the body's everything. This is the millionaire. This is the relationship. This is everything. Because whatever this is vibrating as is sending out that message and coming back. And this is the place we're not taught. So in this racing around type of thing, when a person goes, oh my God, I don't know. and they're freaking out, what's happens is this vehicle is now in attention. It's in all these different energies. Well, all those energies are what is sending out the messages to come back. So, that's why you're not able to create the life that you want. You're in different turmoil. Maybe something sort of works, doesn't work, isn't in alignment with you. You're not at a place of peace and happiness and all that. But if in the difference is you start to say, wait a minute, okay, I'm in the privacy of my own home, my own body. And what am I doing to myself? Because this goes to the deeper place that through the false matrix, we've been guided to play out three major frequencies: enslavement, imprisonment, and sacrifice. So we are enslaving ourselves within our belief systems. We are imprisoning ourselves within the mind. And then we sacrifice. We sacrifice health for money. We sacrifice in relationships. We do this because life is really literally nothing more than a series of life and death, so to speak, or movement. And, even if somebody says they don't fear physical death, they definitely fear the death of a relationship, the death of a job, the death,
Yeah.
all these things, and so this is this idea of that surrendering into it, and that's the idea of recognizing how we create. And from here, this vehicle, this is the piece that we're taught, forget the body and race around and do things. Well, that just keeps the matrix in play. That's the part I never understood. That's what was the upside down to me. I'm like, why are you going to a job? And I remember saying, I didn't agree to that. I didn't agree to those things. Like what, right? And
Yeah.
saying this stuff. Right. So this is what the bigger piece in this is, that we, as this vehicle, we're God consciousness. And you may have heard me say this, that the way I like to look at it is like God, if you will, source is like a giant library of information. It's really infinite calibrations of geometries, but let's just say it's a giant library of information. And you are a smaller library of the giant library, and so am I, but you're unique, very unique. There's no one like you. And so that library of information called you is your soul. And basically how we engage in a physical reality is we take this information called you. It's like the software in a computer. So the software tells the computer what to do. So the brain is like the computer. So we basically take ourselves, we download into the brain, and then we communicate to the body, and then we use that to create. But there's several things going on here that in that is that we're not downloading ourselves into the brain. We're actually sitting in these little boxes. We're sitting in this pentagonal shape boxes, like a little pentagon, like a five-sided container, specifically five-sided because it's closed grid, it's closed. So we're taking this information called you. We're sitting in this box and we're listening to a book being read to us, and we're communicating that to the body, and we're using that to create. So what is that? So the book being read to us is the collective beliefs, what it means to be a man or a woman or your
Oh,
family,
man.
whatever. And then
Mhm.
the boxes, so the edges of those boxes are created by the parameters of your belief system in terms of something you want to create. So in other words, if I say to myself, like, how can I create money? Whatever limited belief system I have is what creates the boxes. So
Mhm.
that's why I say is this is about mastering the mind, because this is about breaking out of those boxes. How do I do that? Is I have to move from my head to my heart space. I have to go from the known to the unknown, right? But we're not taught to be in the unknown. We're taught to be in the known. And that's the 0 point. And so what is that literally in our physicality? It's the present moment relaxed. So it's the difference between I got my feet on the floor, I'm looking in my I'm sitting in my chair, I'm looking out my eyes, but I'm in my head,
Yeah.
versus I got my feet on the floor, I'm looking out my eyes, and I'm literally in my room. So it went, and so because we're not taught to be in the present moment, we're taught to be in the past or the future, because
Mhm.
then we're not conscious creators. That's how we can be puppets. That's how this is constantly going on. But when we can drop into that present moment, that's really what the difference is, it's and feel. And within that, we learn, and this is where it goes into that I teach that all we're doing in human existence is matching frequencies in order to be comfortable. That's it. And think of frequencies simply as emotions. And by universal law, faster moving frequencies always try to raise slower ones up to match them. It's just how it works, right? So
Yep.
the example would be if you and I come around each other and I'm happy and you're mad, what's going to happen is I'm going to irritate you because I'm vibrating at a faster rate and because my happy's trying to raise you up to match it, right? So as long as I stay happy, you only have two choices. You either get happy with me or you go away, right?
Right.
And so everything is frequency and energy, your clothes, your room, everything, right?
Yeah.
So we never pause enough to even know, I came from the era where I didn't have anything. So like my first apartment was hand-me-down stuff from everybody. So you don't even realize that, when I first was waking up to this idea of matching energies, I realized that there was nothing in my environment that was me. First of all, I didn't know who I was. And I think that this is a big piece when you can say to
Yeah.
yourself, I don't know who I am, and that's a good thing because it is a good thing. And then you relax into it, then you get to discover. Like I picked this for today because it was, I felt yellow was, for us and for the client I had. And so I pick my clothes with what I feel, and I feel my environment. And this is the difference. Like this is what I say is we're just kids on the playground. If we didn't come into a world that we're so empathic, we're reading and we're taught you got to shut down and be, we would be the little kids that are just exploring, right? We just explore around and we discover and we play and we do things and we would, be who we are. But and this is what I'm here to help is that we can do that when we just choose to do it. But it's a choice, and it's a choice through the heart. And so it's not throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing where you're pushing out your thoughts and damning them and judging them. No, you're noticing, okay, I've got these thoughts, but I have a choice. That's why I said about the money. I have a choice how I react to that, right? And because in this enslavement, imprisonment, and sacrifice energy, we've been convinced in the privacy of our own home, in our own bodies, to bring in all the characters in the world and all the parents and the ex-husband and the blah, blah, blah. And they're standing inside our head 24/7 in the energy that they've been in, and we're reacting to them until we're not. And that's really the key to everything. That's why I say this is really easy and really hard at the same time, because it's really just about letting go. And that's that idea. That's why the idea of knowing that in 14 seconds, which is pretty quick, we're creating something. So say, okay, well, what am I creating? So it's not like, oh my God, it's like, okay, well, what is my repetitive thought? It's 14 seconds over and over and over again that I'm continuing to repeat. So it's like this starts to show you why I have the life I have. And if I want something different, it's my thoughts about it. What am I doing? Right? Because the thought is the blueprint. It's the creation. It's the paper that you're
Yeah.
starting with. So it's like, okay, and do I believe that? And what do I believe?
Yeah.
And can I be in neutrality and have an authentic experience? Because this goes to what, I've more recently been really brought home about what really love is. So love is, I believe, in the way that it's been shown to me, and I feel it, love is the frequency of your authentic experience when you're participating. That's what love is. Love is the frequency of your emotional experience when you are authentically participating. That's love. Unconditional love is that it doesn't have a particular emotion at all or direction of what gets created. That's it. Because it's all God consciousness. So we think of love as flowery, but that's why it's fun, right? Because it's mine. Think about it. It's always this glorious thing if I am authentically participating with it, no matter what it is. That's love,
And
right?
I think on one show, I'm pretty sure it was you that stated these emotions like love and joy and bliss that we're really going to start to understand. Like like we've never really understood what they were before, but because of
Exactly.
this awakening,
Exactly.
it's going to be more and it's going to be different, which I found that to be
Yes.
incredibly exciting too.
Yes, yes, because we don't know, we don't have any point of reference. This is the work that the current work that I'm doing. Like I just
Right.
did a course on authentic power and authentic
Oh,
vulnerability. And yes, because we don't know. That's why I'm sharing that this is what authentic love is. It is the emotional frequency of your experience, of you in your participation with it, of your experience. It's whatever. So that's why we love it. We feel it. We're like, oh, I'm participating no matter what it is. And it doesn't matter if it fails or it doesn't. And that's why it's unconditional, right? It's
yeah.
like as long as I am me, am participating, we don't participate in our own lives. And that's really what
Mm.
it was for me. I was in the nothingness instead of the no thing and all possibilities. And that's the difference between the inorganic present moment and the organic present moment. So the inorganic is when you're in your head. And so for me, life was like one long day because I was like in my head all the time. And this, I think, is most people. They are.
Yeah.
They're just hamsters on the wheel going through.
Mhm.
That's why we have so many addictions and so many things, because that's why they think fun is getting drunk or getting high or having lots of sex or doing whatever. It's always to escape something as
Yeah.
opposed to participate with it,
Being in it,
right?
right?
This is the difference.
Man.
That's the inversion, right? And,
Yes.
and one thing that I will say to you too, that's a caveat to our conversation, is I'm not arbitrarily talking. I'm in the energetic field, and I'm sure you're feeling it, that everything we're speaking is on multi-dimensional layers and is moving into the quantum field in many, many layers and levels. So
How fun is that? Being kids in
yeah.
the playground. Come on. I have so many other questions for you, yet we are closing in on time. I wanted to see, I want to go into the Just Be practice, but do you have a frequency adjuster near you for people watching? They could see
Um,
what it looks
I
like. I know
do.
you got videos on it as well. And
I
plus,
do
I'm going to
have
publish your
one.
website.
Hold on one second. I'll come
Okay.
right up.
Dun dun dun. A little pause as Cathleena gets her frequency adjuster.
Here it is.
Here she
Here's the
comes.
frequency adjuster.
So neat.
So this is what it looks like. And it is so this aligns you to the 0 point, or
Okay.
the neutrality place for all of your body systems, your chakra systems, and your pure connection to God and the earth. So
Whoa.
this is basically you without an ego.
Can you
That's,
describe it for those who are just listening?
yeah.
How would you describe it?
Well, so what this is, this is made of a very special wood. The wood's called babunga. It's the second highest frequency wood on the planet.
Wow.
The highest is the bonsai tree, but that's not sustainable, so you can't use that. It has 10 sides around it. We have 11 body systems, so each one of these sides corresponds to a body system. It has 12 points on either end, which is the 12 dimensional fields of this earth experience. This is the connection to source. This is the connection to earth. It has crystals inside of it, which you hear it, which is special. It's made in halves, and they're very specific dimensions. So it has selenite, which is the highest connection to you and God, and then it has Himalayan salt, which is the connection of you and the earth, and then it has tourmaline for the chakra systems. And so you attune this to you, and the attunement is it has a Om symbol here, and so you start with that to the right side of the body is the masculine. This is the feminine source connection, earth connection. And so you put this on the thumb. This is actually hitting pituitary gland here as well. And so you have 2 fingers here, 2 fingers here, and then you ohm 9 seconds. And this is the cardiovascular system. And so when you ohm, it actually brings the cardiovascular system into the place of neutrality. And then you roll it away from you. And I have a video for all of this. And then it goes to the digestive, endocrine, and all the different body systems. And so it literally brings it into the neutrality. And so what's happening is that, like I said, this is you in authentic present moment. So that's what this is. And then when you align to it, it's like the energy that's in your field. So say in your field, all the things that are not you, you've collected in your field. So they are leaving. And so it's coming into this alignment and balance. And so this is really a beautiful thing, particularly now to have, because it's a way that, you know, you can feel what it feels like to come into that authentic neutrality amongst everything else that's in your space and in your in who you are. And I say you can hold it, you can sleep with it, and it exponentially moves that out of your field. It's also a diagnostic tool. So you can, when you do the Om, if you're doing it, you only need to do it once. Once you do it once, it's attuned to you no matter what, where you have it in the world, you don't have to carry it. But you can continue to do it. And if the Om sounds weird, like weird, then you can stay on it 3 times, and it'll clear what it's letting you know is something's trying to invade that body system in the ether. And then you move that, because the physicality, the interference in the physicality starts first to break down the spiritual, then emotional, then it becomes physical. So, you know, and I mean, I'm going into a whole lot of stuff here, but that's, you know, and so this is channeled from the Arcturian collective, and I, like I said, it's fully patented and channeled. And so, yeah, it's an amazing little tool.
Very nice. I've been doing the show for 3 years. Well, actually, it'll be 3 years in January, which kind of like I hadn't really planned on it. And it's so nice to meet so many genuine people that have really amazing tools for this in this ascension that we're going through right now. So yeah, that just all felt really, really good to me. All right, let's move into the practice. What are you going to do for us today, Cathleena?
Just be practice.
Feel good, all of a sudden.
Yeah. I'm going to go deeper into the energy for everybody here and everybody who will be here at any other time, as time is not linear, it's spherical, and I can already feel the energetics. So I'm just going to open up the field and really bring in a much greater presence of Gaia and source consciousness, and see where this wants to go. So for those that maybe don't know, I do a lot of mudras and energy, and I work in a lot of different light language and things like that. So I make a lot of sounds, I do a lot of strange things, so just kind of go with it. Okay.
Right.
Change the sound so you get all the nuances, so you might hear a little bit of background noise. So if you want to close your eyes and take some deep breaths, and you might want to take your glasses off yourself. It's up to you.
Okay. Let me get my blanket.
Yeah. All
okay.
Right.
I'm ready.
Mosate te dare kotati skide le kalai moto tuki siki ti le katsani ka tu umo khala pa ko de sikida te ne moto tu yeta de sikina tu kim pa ne moto ya sikina ma alo ko ka hasani ka de lo ko simene ko ni mata re gala la ka si le osto ti la ka sini ka moto te la kambo simene tia to sini le ka ko ama ka ta ka ni gala ka ta akasani ke de sikene moto te la baba ti ko ni mete ke ki sikini moto te ya na ba ko ala ka sa de ke tu shikata ni ko de mata le go sini la tatayom. Sarikata komate da kasanikata yushikite sinikata. Abakoni mata tu mata da ya sarikata ba ata ya no singi singi looking manakite sikina matu ya alekositi ki ishikosi mati la kana ata yo meti ya sikane mo pita keto na taskita no kome o hasa kala keto shkani shasa keto imprat pokos sini ale koni manakite tuti sarikane motu uma patuki. Wasani matutuki asikati la kaleori I asani e la sani asani o mapotoni matikotani kana mashkiti sikini motima. several contracts and agreements, seen and unseen, known and unknown, to play small, to forget who I am, to hide, to be afraid. Sever these contracts and agreements with absolute sovereignty and divine forgiveness. Forgive me, forgive you, love me, love you. Compassion for you, for compassion for me, gratitude for you, gratitude for me. Take a deep breath. Release all attachments, seen and unseen, known and unknown, all MK Ultra mind control, holographic inserts, consciousness traps, reversal timeline loops, any 5G sonic frequencies, COVID or viral frequencies, any of the victimizer frequencies. Take a deep breath. I'm going to take off any mask that we're wearing, any types of mask, and anything that's holding that pineal, the pituitary and the pineal in a holding space. So I'm going to take this off as I'm going to go deeper into the energetics and go underneath like the face, and we're going to bring forward a much brighter light. So we're taking off anything of how we've been either showing up or facing the world, or any places that has us play any characters. And so I'm working with the pituitary to balance out all the body systems and the systems within the body to organize and move within the energetics of your true I am presence. And I'm going to open up and communicate greater to that pineal. And we're going to begin to awaken the golden triangle within the physical brain, which is the pineal, thymus, hypothalamus, and thalamus glands. Let's get deep breaths. And this is just awakening the greater I am presence. I am source. I am sovereign. I am free. That's grace. And I'm also going to pull forward through the throat and taking out any of the places that I've been limiting myself, choosing my words from the collective, or from any places that I may have had fear of speaking any divine truth, especially if I'm in places that maybe I haven't found it anywhere else. And so I need validation. So we're just taking all that energetic out and opening up the field to the pure uniqueness. Beautiful deep breaths. Expand this field 360 degrees. So opening up the crown. Expanding through the dimensional fields, clearing through all dimensional fields. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Closing all portals, gateways, pathways, meridians, stargates, wormholes of any access to my energy, past, present, and future, and all space-time continuum from my conscious, subconscious, and cellular level. Take a deep breath. Opening up to all the higher dimensional fields, opening up and connecting to our spirit family, our higher dimensional self, our higher self, our oversoul. Allowing for greater clarity of a knowing of who I am, who I've been, why I'm here. Beautiful deep breaths. I'm going to drop you into the crystalline core of Gaia, calibrating, integrating all elements, earth, fire, air, water, ether, and the diamond blue plasmic flame of the sixth element to all aspects of self, mental, physical, spiritual, etheric. Calibrating, integrating the quantum level of the carbon DNA to the crystalline DNA, to the original human genome, the original human blueprint, the I am presence, the organic template. Take a deep breath. The blue plasmic flame allows us to know our uniqueness and oneness without separation. It's like knowing I'm the droplet of water and the ocean at the same time. Beautiful deep breaths. Opening up the portals in your feet, allowing you to root and ground into the crystalline core of Sophia Gaia. As the crown is completely open to Prime Creator, as above, as below, as below, as above. Coming into coherency with the mind, the heart, and the intent. The movement upon the earth. In my pure I am presence. Safe to be me, it's safe to be free. I am that I am. Safe to be me, it's safe to be free. I am that I am. Safe to be me, it's safe to be free. I am that I am. We call forward the highest and most profound miracles, and healing miracles take place this now divine moment according to divine law and order and the will of the Oversoul. And we're going to ask for all that no longer serves you to simply release with grace and ease. I want you to imagine little particles like dirt just floating out of your body. You don't have to know what they are. It's all limits, limitations, judgments, worthiness programs, fear programs. Just floating it out, it's just information. And I'm going to bring another field around you of pure Prime Creator. Very bright, bright, white, thick plasmic field of pure Prime Creator. And all that we're releasing, we're going to replace with pure Prime Creator. Mother, Father, God. It is said, it is so, it is said, it is so, it is said, it is so, it is done, it is done, it is done. I am free, I am free, I am free, I am that, done that, done that. So it is, so it is, so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take some deep breaths. We're coming into the body. I'm going to bring in another very high frequency diamond white light into the bones of the body. So all the bones becoming bright, bright white. The skull, the spine, the arms, the legs, the hips, the fingertips, the toes. This is the Christed body. This is the highest form of you in physicality. And we're going to line that with the crystalline grid network of Sophia Gaia. I'm also going to bring in a golden light. This is you before you ever came into form. We're going to bring that into the central and peripheral nervous system, brainstem, brain, all becoming golden. Entire nervous system all the way to the fingertips, the toes, and all organ structures. Lining that to the golden grid network of Sophia Gaia. We're going to bring in a royal blue silver light of Divine Father and a pink white light of Divine Mother. We're going to bring that with that golden light of your origination into the central and peripheral nervous system, brainstem, brain, balancing out that Hieros Gamos, Mother, Father, the Trinity Codex, Mother, Father, Child, the mental, spiritual, physical, the masculine, feminine, and neutrality energetics. I'm going to pull that through the heart space, spinning through all timelines, all dimensional fields, bringing into this present moment, this present lifetime, the balance of you and the masculine, feminine principles, Mother, Father, principles, the pure Trinity Codex. I'm going to pull this into the entire field, mental, physical, spiritual, etheric. As we continue to let go, let go, let go, we come into balance with our true I am presence, that true sense of present moment, neutrality. So we're balancing out the mental, the spiritual, the physical. I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, I am free, I am free, I am free. I am that, I am that, I am that. I'm going to bring in another pink light of Divine Mother, bringing in peace, sense of peace into the system. And I'm also going to drop in another golden light of the central sun of divine abundance, abundance in health and wealth and well-being. Have that joy, excitement, exhilaration, curiosity. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is said, it is so, it is said, it is so, it is said, it is so, it is done, it is done, it is done. I am free, I am free, I am free, I am that, done that, done that. So it is, so it is, so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I'm going to bring this calibration into this present moment as your crown is completely open to Prime Creator, your root into Sophia Gaia, as above, as below, as below, as above. So begin to imagine energetic roots coming out the legs, out the feet, wrapping around the crystalline core of the earth. These are crystal clear roots as we're calling in the 18th dimensional diamond consciousness of water, bringing in divine clarity and divine flow. I'm going to bring that into the fluid systems in the body, the brain fluid, spinal fluid, interstitial fluid, lymphatic fluid, all becoming divine clarity and flow. As we're coming into the body. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just allowing it to come into the body. Okay. How are you feeling?
Start opening my eyes now. How am I feeling? Great. Great. Okay, give me a second. Put my glasses back on.
Yeah, that's okay. That was a very deep, a lot of clearing. And so I highly recommend everybody revisit this too, because everything I do is in the 0 points. So no matter when you listen, it's in the present moment each time you listen. And that was just a huge expansion of energetics. So yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for talking as I get more acclimated to myself.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was such a gift, Cathleena. Thank you for bringing that to all of us and for bringing your time. And I always like to comment on the practice a little bit. It was really interesting when you brought up taking off the masks, because same thing. Hey, I've done a lot of work. And I'm like, oh, there's a mask. Oh, crap, there's another mask there. How masks are going to come off? I thought well, chill out. It's all good. But then it was like sinking deeper and deeper. And it's a challenge for me sometimes because as the host for the podcast, keeping my foot kind of in that world, but also going into the practice. And a part of me was like, just let it go. Cathleena is going to tell you when to come back. Don't worry about coming back. So that was really, I think I did that about halfway through. So I will do this again also on my own. Yeah. So again, and I'm not being cheesy with this. Thank you so much for bringing that. Seriously, because we are at this we've been at a pivotal point for a long time, but I also know that 2025 is going to just be an amazing year for those of us who desire it to be that way. So again, for the frequency adjuster, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here. And if you can stay on for just a moment so you and I can personally say goodbye. Hey, I'll see and hear all of you guys next week. I mean, look at the awesome things that are happening. It is great. Wasn't the show great, Cathleena? Thank you so much. If you can say goodbye to everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. And good night. Goodbye.
Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So subscribe, do it all. See ya.